So we're going to kick off day 2 with more of a panel discussion, talking with our friends here from Jackson County. I'm going to let them introduce themselves in a minute. You know me, I'm Judy Pikert, Vice President of Professional Services with Aumentum. I am here today just as the moderator. I'll be asking the questions that you guys all submitted in the survey. We sent out a survey a few weeks before to try and prepare and cull all of your questions. So they are prepared to answer your questions in their words, giving their perspective of how they stuck the landing, so hence the gymnastics analogy. Just sharing how their implementation went. They recently went live, as you heard yesterday from Hanny, on an Aumentum platform in July, and have quite an interesting story of all the ups and downs and trials and tribulations of a software implementation of that size. And they want to share their story. So that's what we're going to do this morning.
All right. I am Carrie Schultz. I'm Deputy Director of Operations for Jackson County, Missouri, for the Collection Department. I've been there 21 years now this month.
I've not been there that long. No, I'm Becky Ryan. I am Deputy Director of Administration in Jackson County.
Well, welcome and thank you for doing this with us. It's been fun to prepare, so hopefully we'll have a little fun this morning.
Yes.
First of all, can everybody hear us okay in the back? We're mic'd up correctly? Okay. Let us know if you can't. Okay, so I think the first thing we should do, and we talked about this, is just give everybody some context and some background to kind of set the stage so that when we start with the questions, they'll know what kind of systems you were coming from, what kind of third parties you were dealing with. So let's just start with some background.
Sure. So a little information, some stats on Jackson County. We are Jackson County, Missouri. We have a population of 727,362. Our collection department billed $1.4 billion for our tax year 2024. We collect and distribute that to over 80 jurisdictions. And we have roughly 650,000 active tax accounts. And we do all of this with only 43 full-time employees and 2 office locations. So our legacy system, the year was 1998. We upgraded from a non-Y2K compliant mainframe computer to our Ascend tax software, and that was a great program for us for a long time, for 27 years, a very long time. So, but we had outgrown the processing power and maxed out the memory, and we were ready for something new. So we started looking and going through transitioning from old to new. We had several years of specifications that we had to get right for our RFP, had to determine our scope of funding, and getting executive level buy-in because it is a significant purchase. So, but then came the planning phase. So everyone is probably familiar with Parkinson's law. Work expands to fill the time allotted. Knowing this and knowing, as most of your dates probably are statute-driven, dates for us were not negotiable. And so we used those 2 things to be the basis for our project planning. Make sure that we set the dates according and filled them accordingly. So we had mile markers that we had set. We looked at, do we have a downtime? We used that as our best possible end date and walked it backwards and said, know where you want to land and how you want to land, how you want to stick that landing. So if you show people a cushy mat that you've put there for them to land on, they are more likely to decide to take that leap that you requested of them. So we leapt into our date-driven project plan. It was kind of a different way to tackle things, but again, when you have specific dates that you have to hit, that's what we did. So some things are relative, so these will be different for each one of you. Money, budgets, staffing, all of those are unique to each one of you, but some things are universal, and all of your projects, any projects, it's going to be time. So if you make a plan based on your time, you'll have a plan A as a best case, but you should also have a plan B and a plan C. So, number one rule in planning, leave margin. Be deliberate, but build space. You need to have the space in your schedule because that creates the flexibility that you may need. March was our downtime. March was our original go live, and we looked at that. That was our plan A. But if we couldn't do that, our next date would be, because of our tax sale in August, June would be our next date. That's plan B. If we couldn't make that, then we were going to go with September, but that was a last resort because we had October billings so close. Mm-hmm. So, but we had considered all of those different landing places and planned accordingly, mm-hmm. But we knew that we had that flexibility and that room for margin that if we couldn't hit landing A, we had landing B. So anyway, having the landing plans, the different options helped us down the road when challenges arose.
Mm-hmm. And they did.
They did.
All right, well, that's good background. Thanks for the context. We'll go ahead and start with the first question that came from you guys. Question number one, Carrie, I'm going to let you answer this one. Let's see here. What was the most unexpected pain point you ran into along the way?
So, some pain points you can anticipate, you can plan accordingly, and some you don't know. One thing you will all learn is you don't know what you don't know. You will come to that conclusion. So a recurring pain point that we had was underestimating. We knew certain things, we planned accordingly, but we underestimated. So navigating external forces like third-party vendors, other departments, city offices, we had to navigate working through contracts, finding other people's motivations that are outside of your office, and knowing specifications. So it was ours, yours, theirs. And they each kind of came with their own pain points, if you will. Mm-hmm. So the other recurring pain point of underestimating was what our staff didn't know. And that was, we kind of determined that early on, that we had experts in their jobs. They had been experts in that for many years, but some of them were trained in how to do the job, like the button presses, but not necessarily the core functions of that job, like the concepts of why they were doing those tasks. And so that was something that we had to work on. Then number 3 was the really unexpected pain points, the external forces, and that was a ransomware attack. So yes, that was a big surprise. We were completely offline about 3 weeks, and we had just started our business process review. So our conversion one stood up April 1st, and we went completely dark April 2nd. So this was all of the Jackson County departments, every office was offline, no phones, no email, no document retrieval, no tax software, yeah, everything. So we were closed to the public, and sometimes it's not what you're given, it's what you do with what you're given. And so we took those 3 weeks of being offline, closed to the public, and took that as a gift. And we worked with our staff and those that maybe didn't understand all of the whys and whens and wheres of their job functions. We kind of went through that business process and walked through that. Well, why are you doing this? Why do you need this? Do you need it? And then what? And what next? And who's next? And so that was really helpful. And it also gave us an opportunity to look at our bills and receipts. We had pre-printed samples from other counties, and we looked at those, and we were able to say what's the same, what's different. Do we need to have that's different? Do we need to make that a requirement? No. So that was a good thing. And then once they started looking at, hey, it looks like we may be able to come back online and open to the public, we had to look at our basic functions. What's necessary for us to open? And that kind of started the conversation, and so we opened up to the public, and that gave us our list of essential functions.
It's pretty incredible how productive you were during that downtime to use that opportunity to ask. We call it the 5 whys. Why do you do this? But why? But why? But why? And really kind of get to the bottom of that. Yeah, good. So that's a lead into the next question, actually, Carrie, for you, is how did all that help you define what the basic functions of the business for your Aumentum platform go live scope would need?
So one of the things, the collection department doesn't operate in a vacuum. We're sort of midstream through a workflow. So how do we get information from a department? How do we get it to a department? How do we get it to the public? So we kind of went through what are our have-to-haves to open. And we had things that, depending on the time of year or month, that also makes a difference. So being in April, that was kind of a downtime for us, and that made it a little easier for us. So, but this basic list would end up being critical for us at down the line in our go live, and gave us sort of our needs for that, landing that go live. So.
And this is about the time where Dave Wagstrom, is he in the room, can make fun of how old your phone is. She was trying to do something online with her phone last night, and Dave was like, wait, how old is this phone?
Yes, Dave, that is not my previous phone.
No.
All right, Becky, your turn. Next question is, how many business practices did you need to change to align with the new system?
So most of our core business practices really didn't change. The things that did change was just how we went about doing them. Same procedures, you look up the PINs for your taxpayers, you pretty much take the same steps in cashiering. All of those things stayed relatively the same, but things like how the bill looked, how the cashiering screen looked, those were the things that really changed. But definitely not for the worse by any means. Many of them, they found out, they can work more efficiently now. There's an easier flow we're finding, especially with a lot of our younger employees coming in. It's like second nature to them because they're used to drop downs, they're used to scrolling through a list, all of those things. So things, it used to be where we'd have to have like our systems admin, if we wanted to find anything, we'd have to have them write a query and get the list, and then over here in this thing we're going to type up and make all of the communications, the correspondence, and then we have to merge all of this together. And now, really with what we have available to us, you can pull your groups, you can preload all of your correspondence. And so it's really created a much more efficient workflow for a lot of our people. I'm hopeful by this time next year that we'll be even further down in this dig to see even more things that are offered. I feel like we're just kind of breaking the surface. But it's really important to remember, with what we all do, so much of our business practices are statutorily driven. So we have to do things at certain times of the years, and there are some things that we only do once every 2 years. But as you follow your county charter, your state statutes, your federal statutes, your levies have to be approved by a certain deadline. All of those things really stayed the same. But it was just how the screens looked to our employees, and then the amount of, it's like the art of the possible. What they could do so much quicker and so much more effective that they didn't have access to before. Really.
When you mentioned kind of where you are in this journey and the hope for where you will be in a year, because it is a long journey to adapt and change.
Oh, yeah.
You had a funny phrase last night. You were telling me about this sponge. Can you say that?
So I feel like with a lot of our employees, we kind of overload them with training at the beginning, and then they become this sponge, and they're soaking up as much as they possibly can, focusing on what they, the everyday tasks that they do. We've kind of gotten to this point now where those new practices are now the routine, and so this sponge has kind of deflated and shrunk a little bit. And so things we're doing now is looking at reevaluating some of those processes of where are they at, who needs a refresher for what, and kind of re-soak that sponge again, so that they can absorb some of the things maybe they didn't in the first go round.
Yeah. You use the sponge, I use the pool analogy that, you start off in that shallow end, that little beach part, and then eventually we get in the deep end, and you need different skills in the deep end. So, yeah. Interesting journey for sure. Okay, Carrie, next question for you is, this new system can handle a lot of complexity. Did you find that processes became simpler, or did they require more steps compared to your previous setup?
So kind of building on what you had said, the more steps or less steps between the old system and new is really the difference of 6.5 dozen. The workload still kind of remains the same to the end user. So be sure to be cautious in promising faster, easier, because it may not be for that end user. But if they look at the overall overview of this, like you said, we had letter forms before, but now they're housed in the system. So with the new program, we can send letters. The templates are in the system, so everybody has the same one. You don't have to have different ones. They also, the information, because it's housed in there, can be auto-populated, which means less typing, fewer data entry errors. That is helpful. And the copy is stored internally, so everyone can reference it at a glance. There's no paper copies to make. No standing at the copier and no filing. No
But
paper
it's so fun to
filing.
stand at the copier. It's where all the jokes happen.
I thought it was the water
Yeah,
cooler.
that's where all the paper cuts come from.
Yes.
Yeah.
No. So, but once they saw that the new system had these kind of added bonuses, they were a little more,
Yeah.
they could see the bigger picture of
Yeah.
it, and that really helped with adoption.
I'm getting a visual right now. What was the movie, The Office, where they took the fax machine out and
Yes.
took a hammer to it? Is that what you did to
Yes.
the printer?
You're now obsolete.
It is an interesting topic, though, because I get this question a lot during an implementation or really during the sales cycle. The clicks and the screens, and there's so much focus on what the end user is going to feel or change, but you're really highlighting that it may not change that much for them, or it may be 2 extra clicks
Right.
in a screen or an area, but you're looking for end results
Focus on,
and
yeah.
really trying to understand what the stakeholders needed. But then you have to find a way to translate that to the users. Do you have an example of how you made that translation with your staff?
Well, I think that was one of the examples was the letter templates.
Okay.
And, you know, each user is going to have their own point of focus. And if you can find those things early on and point those out to them, again, it may not be faster, it may not be easier, it may not have pinstripes, but there is benefit to this, and sometimes the benefit is that it is stable, secure. It is a scalable environment. So as we grow, we can build this out. And they may not understand that right away, but you can point that out and how that affects their daily tasks.
It is important to communicate that. That's the why.
Yeah.
You know, it's finding your why for what you're going through and really translating that to the staff. That's not always easy. So Becky, that probably leads us to the next question. That testing is always a challenge, especially when resources are limited. How did you manage with a small, as you've described, a small testing team with various different testing skills?
Definitely testing was a good challenge and kind of always a challenge. When you have, a small workforce and you're asking a lot of this workforce on a daily basis, and then, oh, hey, on top of it, you have to do all of this new stuff now too. We had a project manager, a third-party project manager who saved us, and she was an angel in disguise. She helped that organizational, so instead of, one of us who is in it trying to do all the charts and the data tracking, who's end-to-end testing, who's accomplishing this, she was there to motivate them. She set up, workflow charts of what each administrator needed to end-to-end test, and then tracked, what percentage of that end-to-end testing do you have done? And I think probably the biggest thing was we were sitting in a meeting, and we had one pretty stubborn and admin who didn't really have the buy-in and whatnot. And every week you're like, oh, you're still at 0% end-to-end testing. This is great. And everybody else is like 30, now 50, now 70, yay. And you just want to get on as the boss and be like, would you just start? And this week comes and she had 5%. And I'm like, great. And Kai, our project manager, gets on there and she's like, good job, way to get going in this. And I'm like, it is 5%. But it was just that third-party encouragement, completely non-biased. She came in and, I can work Excel, I can do these things. It's like that parent. You can tell your kid something until you're blue in the face, but then the coach comes in and they're like, I never thought about that. It's like,
I have teenagers, I'm familiar.
Yeah. And so that was I mean, that was probably one of the best parts that we had that I would suggest to anyone to do. Is it is well worth the money if you get a good one. At some point, you just have to realize that no matter how much you assign your admins or supers or whoever to do end-to-end testing of what they know, they cannot hit every scenario. They can't hit every unicorn property, every unicorn, walk-in case. And so you just have to accept that there are going to be things that didn't get tested. But you're kind of throwing that net out there going, I'm going to catch as much as I possibly can. I'm not going to catch all the fish in the ocean. And I feel like that's kind of where we had to come to. We had to find that, what do we absolutely have to have? And then knowing too that, we had a date to stick to. We weren't going to get through everything, but we had to get through everything that we needed to go live with. And there's pressure from our leadership and our exec team of getting it live, getting it going, and you have to kind of balance that. And instead of having that negative come down on your staff all the time, you have to kind of spark that fire of them wanting to learn it, that curiosity, that you put them on the top of the peak and go, But they, I feel like with testing with a small group, having that positive peer pressure,
The
maybe.
cheerleader. Yes.
That cheerleader, that person that's saying, okay, I'm not just meeting you and saying what you're doing, I'm putting it out there. And that really helped kind of ramp up they took it and ran with the challenge. So that was really beneficial for us.
I saw a lot of those areas that Kai put together. I think you called it an accountability chart, and
Yes.
it was could have been a wall of shame, but I guess it was used to motivate, every named tester and where they stood. Little healthy competition, maybe a little peer pressure. So you never know what's going to work. You guys did have a pretty small testing window.
Yes.
Wasn't ideal, but you were so date driven on your go live that you made a lot of trade-offs really to say this go live date is really important, therefore we're going to change our whole testing plan to meet the go live. So that was really interesting to watch how you did that. And John is not in the room, but hopefully he feels the vibes of John was their lead tester, like all things, poor guy.
Back office,
Just
just kind of got thrown in his lap.
Yeah, he did a great job. Back at home base, keeping the office running right now, but
Yes.
we'll have him next year maybe.
He is not here this week because he is at home generating tax bills.
Yes, he is, doing the first run.
Yes.
Yeah, we might have to have a little celebration by tomorrow.
In his honor.
Yes. So, good. All right, well, testing is a big topic we get a lot in projects. Everybody does it different, everybody has a different plan. It feels like everybody runs into those same challenges of skill set, time, how do you balance it with production work. So I'm sure you'll get more questions on testing.
Absolutely.
But we talked about people a little bit, so let's talk about organizational change management, which is really about helping people navigate through this big change. What tactics or things did you try that worked well, and maybe ones that didn't quite hit the mark?
So we'll always go with the positive first. Keep running with the product that we have because we outgrew it, plain and simple. I mean, the product can still run. We just got too big. You can't keep stuffing that toy chest. It's going to explode. And creating that sense of urgency so that they know that this move is going to happen and they can either trudge through it or they can walk through it. And we're going to give them as many tools and shoes and whatever they need. But I think being able to really instill that sense of urgency in people really gets the buy-in, gets them bought on for it. We learned, communication is key, being transparent in between. We have 5 units in our department, and just keeping that communication flow between each of our unit administrators, our executive team, the back office stuff that was happening. It kind of empowered them instead of putting them on the sidelines saying, oh, you're just over here doing this part. We're keeping you in the loop of everything going on. things that maybe didn't work as well as we wanted them to, because you're always going to have those. Some of the peer-led accountability, I think, sometimes can create tension between the different admins. Not everyone feels comfortable leading their peers, first of all, you know, and not everyone really feels comfortable getting that constructive criticism from their peers. So you have to be the moderator to see when you start straining those relationships and how to infuse them to keep them positive and moving forward. So some of that stuff, I think we learned a lot. You know, that peer stuff needs a lot of structure. It needs a lot of support from your executive team. And some people just need the training on how to do it as well. They're great subject matter experts, but they're not teachers. They're not trainers. They need that help. We also saw over time our communication kind of drop. Usually it was when, you know, we were full on testing, or we were trying to meet this deadline, or this, you know, whatever. When it got really stressful, we saw that dip in communication, and that was really when we needed it the most. When the people needed the most encouragement, when they needed to know what's our next step, where are we at now. And so I feel like we learned a lot about not letting our communication fade through the process. And moving forward, you know, focusing on keeping that communication consistent. There's still things processes we haven't done that are going to have to get tested, and keeping everyone in the loop of that so that no one feels like they're really out on that ledge.
Becky, sticking with you, if you had to do it all over again, what's the one thing you'd approach differently?
I joined the county probably 6-8 months ago, and so they were already through part of the process of this. Kind of as it happens, I think normally the people aren't near as engaged. They're kind of at the very beginning thinking, well, maybe this isn't really going to happen, or this is, you know, eons down the road. I'm not going to fully get into this. And they make excuses for not having the time to do all of this stuff. Ultimately, I think getting that buy-in and getting that sense of urgency straight off the bat, and I can say that because I wasn't there to do that. No. But I feel like getting that is the key to making all of those little cogs work together. You know, just kind of demonstrating what we had been doing for 27 years wasn't changing, just how it looked on their screen was changing. And so getting them to see, yes, this is a huge change, but when you break it down, it's really not. You're still doing the same task in your job, it just looks a little different. And the reality is people really don't like to change just because they're asked to. They really only want to change when it's necessary, when they're on that precipice, when you're either going to fall back this way or you're going to change and you're going to evolve. And so getting that to our staff to realize that was really inevitable. I feel like if we had to do it over again, just really creating that sense of urgency, really building up our level of communication between all of the groups, probably could have made that process a little smoother, but I think we really came out learning as we went as well.
That's good. So Carrie, what advice would you share with other counties preparing for a similar journey? And was there some small decision early on that ended up having a surprising impact later? Two-parter.
Two-parter, all right. So first, if you take away nothing else from today, from this morning, I am going to reiterate what Becky said. Hire an outside project manager. It's not a commentary on your inside project manager. They are needed, they are necessary, but they probably also have another role. And asking someone to do double duty doesn't mean that you get double output. It means you get half of each. and that is, that's not where you want to be. So she can help you with that. The objective, peer-to-peer kind of objective requester will help you with outside vendors as well as the internal staff. So, and scheduling. When it is one thing to herd a group of cats, it is another thing to herd 3 individual different groups of cats and arrange a meeting, an hour-long meeting for them to all interact. That is a skill set.
Yes.
So there you go. That's nugget 1. After that, really create opportunities for full-time project attention. Again, kind of like with the project manager, all of your staff. Build room in your schedule, build time for them, hire temps, close to the public, have flex schedules, so whatever you can do so that you can have their undivided attention, it will pay off. And I would say early decisions are good, but early action is better. We had created new positions to help with this project. We had intended on having seasonals, temporary staff come in and fill in these roles. And those were great decisions, but we didn't act on them quickly enough. And so they weren't fully trained so that they could be independent. And that's kind of what we needed them, the role we needed them to take. Yep. So
It's a good lesson learned.
Yep.
For the sake of our timing, I might skip a question or two here. I want to ask you, Carrie, though, what new capability or efficiency are you most excited about now that you're live?
Our old Ascend program was great, but there were so many things that we had to do outside of the system. And you know, we had an access database for this, we had a spreadsheet for that. But with the new software, we were able to get all of these things. It was a wish list. Could we get this? We got them all. It is fantastic. Our liquor and amusement licenses, we use the business revenue module for that. That was huge. The program that our IT built for that, the one that wrote it retired, the one that he trained retired. We had no one left. And so, yeah, that was big. That was huge. We have a whole list here, protested payments. Anyone in Missouri here, our senior credit tax program, we've got the applications in the system, the calculations in the system. It's huge. Yeah. Sewer bills, pilot bills, railroad and state assessed utilities, our delinquent tax contracts and payment plans, all of those things, all done outside the system. So if you had a question, you couldn't look in and see it. You had to go find that unit, ask somebody. Those are big.
Yeah.
So, and I would also say Aumentum has some great features. Because we were trying to stick the landing and go with just the basics, the bare bones, what do we need to go live? We did that, but there's a lot of extra features that we're excited to, once we've got both feet under us, we're gonna look at advanced payments and e-forms, e-billing, you know, and excited to try other things as they come along. So yeah, it's a big deal, and we're excited about it.
Yeah, that's great. All right, again, for the sake of time, let me ask one more question. Becky, let's hear from you of what accomplishment you're most proud of coming out of this implementation.
I think honestly, I'm most proud of our associates. And while they may not have all been on board from the get-go, they got on board. You know, they achieved a lot. They put in a lot of time. It was a big deal, and there were people that we had that I figured, oh, they're close to retiring. They're not going to stay to go through this new thing. And they were some of the ones like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I love this. We're going to get going, and just, you know, sponged it up as much as they could. And so with the amount of decades of experience that our team has, they were really just dedicated to learning what they needed to learn so that they could provide the best experience for our taxpayers. And I feel like just getting them through all of that, I don't think they understand the magnitude, the scope of it, what they accomplished. But I think as they start to get to reflect on it, I think they're going to see that. And, you know, we really didn't have a mass amount of turnover during this huge change. I think that was a lot says a lot for our change management plan and how we accommodated that. But, you know, we had the team that really stuck in there. They really gritted it out, and they knew they were supported. They knew, you know, not only was Aumentum supporting us, but we were trying to support them. And so I was just really proud of them kind of rising to that occasion.
Yeah, that's great. And one of the questions was, what were the fun things you had during the project? So we've got a couple of fun pictures up here. Of Becky holding a piñata. We brought a piñata at Go Live, and it's RIP, the old way. And Carrie took some pretty hard hits on that.
That was like the Office Space
Yes.
fax machine.
Yeah, there was definitely some pretty good whacks on that
Got
thing.
some frustration out and
I think
celebration. And
that little bit of celebration we did after, you know, the launch week was just kind of that breath of everybody letting that side coming out, and then getting you, okay, now what's next?
yeah. And it's important to have a little fun, try and inject it in there somewhere, because it is hard and it's stressful. We've touched on this too, but let's just make sure everybody gets to hear what your one key takeaway is. You've already, you know, given
I've
us
reiterated mine.
For me, I think it's just you have to know that no matter what you're integrating, no matter what you're bringing in, life is going to throw you curveballs. You kind of have to expect the unexpected, was a phrase that I've heard throughout my life. And I feel it's really appropriate in this kind of scenario. You can plan for all the things you can think of, but I don't think anybody ever plans for like a malware attack. Like that's, you just don't. And so being able to set out that plan, but then being able to pivot. I kind of feel like as a leader, which most of you are, you know, in your areas, like how you react to those curveballs, that is going to dictate how your team reacts to those curveballs. So if you come in every day and you're like, oh, I'm
frazzled and
trudging
freaking out,
through
yeah.
So is your team. They're going to trudge through it. Now, not everybody can come in happy like SpongeBob, but you have to find that balance because your team is going to feed off of what you give them. So if you give them negativity, we saw it in admins. We had one admin that, you know, really negatively pumped up their people and set their people up for failure because they didn't train them like they were supposed to. Not intervention, but there was a huge difference in that unit versus the unit that, you know, once their admin started training, they were sending screenshots to their cashiers. Here, this is what this looks like. This is what this looks like. We want you in this. So I kind of do the analogy. I'm not a sports person. I'm not really like I'm an art person. So there's not analogies that most people will understand when I do it to art. So I try and be a little more overall. And I say you can be like a Jeep. You can be really tall. You can be narrow and built for rugged terrain. But if you get on that highway and you take that curve too fast, you're going to roll over. Or you can be like a Ferrari, where you're low, you're wide, you know, those curvy roads, you're just hugging them, and you just kind of go with whatever it gets thrown at you. So really just my advice is to be flexible. learn to pivot through those things and be a Ferrari.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, next time we'll have a car theme then.
Yes, just be a Ferrari.
Carrie, what about you?
So I would like to say, Hanny, I'm not sure where you are. You had a count last night. I believe the count was 48 Aumentum folk here.
Yeah.
I have seen every one of your names on emails, on Teams meetings, every single one of you, and the team that's at home right now working with John, building those bills.
Yeah.
Every single one of you contributed to our project. You made it the success, and I'm really looking forward to another 27 years of tax software.
You are?
I am.
We're gonna make her retire before then, just so you know.
Honest.
Okay. How about not having to go through a transition
We'll hope
again
to-
for
yeah.
27
Right.
Make this one last more
Yes.
than
Better
27
stated,
years.
yeah.
It's a legacy for you. Yes.
But it is.
It is.
It's a big project, and it's a big legacy that you're leaving behind, and it's not just for you.
Yeah.
You know, it's for the taxpayers and
Yeah.
the public and the associates that have to work with this.
Yeah.
And knowing that we have built up this and released this, stuck the landing,
Yeah.
and we're there.